Hey, it's the Rooster, Bobby Leach, SouthwestSportsNet.com. Let's talk about the 2013 Providence Catholic Celtics football squad and their chances to reach the 7A state final game. It's going to be a tough road for them early on, especially in week 1 when they face off with JCA, and in week 2 they're facing Manuka. So it isn't going to be easy. Their non-conference schedule is just as tough as their Chicago Catholic Blue schedule, which, by the way, has St. Rita, Mount Carmel, Loyola, and the list goes on and on and on that league, and I'm trying to think in my head, okay, who else do they got to face? Brother Rice. So you're talking about, a really tough schedule. This is probably one of the toughest schedules any football team anywhere in our area has to do this season, and I'm going to tell you why I think they can get there. 2 seasons ago, Providence had a lot of injuries. They finished the season 2-7. They had their head down a little bit, but they understood that injuries are part of the game, and they had obviously lacked a little bit of depth that year. But they came back last year and had a vanilla year. They squeezed into the playoffs at 5-4. And I wouldn't say squeezed in because they had plenty of playoff points, because let's face it, the schedule that they had was just, phenomenal. They started the season with 3 wins, kind of went through a lull there, lost 3 in a row, and it kind of looked like, man, which way is this team going to go? And right when they needed to get hot, they did. I was at the game at Wheaton-Warrenville South, their playoff game in a 7-8 contest. I think everybody thought that Wheaton-Warrenville South was just going to mow over Providence. That wasn't the case. Providence coulda, shoulda, woulda won that game had a couple of things gone their way during the game. A couple of key turnovers, failed to, at times failed to get that first down, that key first down that they needed. And they could not stop the running attack that Wheaton-Warrenville South put forward. And by the way, there was a lot of teams that couldn't stop that. That's why Wheaton-Warrenville South got to the 7A state final game, because after beating Providence, they went on and skunked Lincoln Way East at Lincoln Way East 7-0. So Wheaton-Warrenville South, certainly not a pushover team. But again, Providence came out of that with a 16-23 loss, and honestly, that game was a lot closer than what it looked like, even as the score looked. I think it's a 1-point game. It was that good. It was a great game. When the kids walking off that field, the juniors, I kind of got the sense then that, hey, we're this close. We're right on the edge. We're going to get there. We're going to get there next year. We're going to hit the weight room, and that's exactly what they've done. I got to tell you, I'm really impressed with Providence. I think they've got a great opportunity to advance to that state final game. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that I'm sure that their coaching staff has an expectation to get there. It's not a goal. It's an expectation. If you're a Providence football player right now, your expectation when you came to that school was to win a state championship. And if I'm wrong, shoot me, but I don't think that's the case. The fact of the matter is, those expectations are set at a very high level, and a lot of these kids, a lot of you players that are out there that play for Providence know that you started as a little kid, and here you are at 18 years old, and you're one of the best programs in the state. But it has to translate on the field, and I think it's going to this year. There's a big question mark. My question marks are for Providence this season is going to be their offense. Let's talk about their biggest weakness, their glaring weakness, and that's the loss of their quarterback, Jake Godfrey. Godfrey was probably the heir to be, and instead of coming out for football, he didn't come out for football this season. He chose baseball, and that happens. That happens, with a lot of programs where kid gets really good at one sport or the other, and Jake is a really good baseball player, and chose to focus on baseball. So now, if you're a Providence coaching staff, you're looking at it. Well, who do I got? Who can I stick in there? I think at the end of last season, when that final second ticked off the clock, about 10 minutes after that, coaching staff is already looking at who's going to pick up the slack for next year, right? But not having Jake there, that's going to be an issue for Providence. I don't know how they're going to fill that. You got Nate Stramaglia, and I'm sorry, Nate, if I'm misspelling your name or mispronouncing your name, but so you got Nate, you got Eric Wojciechowski as a senior, and you got sophomore Miles Boynton, who's also competing for that starting spot. Now Nate came over. He did play for Providence, went to Sandburg, didn't like it at Sandburg, or something went on at Sandburg, and was happier coming back to Providence, and that's where he's at. There's going to be a question of whether or not his eligibility is going to come into play, and I'm sure they'll work that out, obviously, before that first game, but there's no telling who the starting quarterback is going to be heading against Joliet Catholic. In fact, there may be a shared responsibility. You just don't know. Eric Wojciechowski is former defensive back. He's a senior, and he's going to be able to. He's definitely got an arm, but can he play that position, at that level? I guess the jury's out. I know one thing. They've got some strengths, though. Let's talk about the strengths of this offense. I mean, quarterback, is a key position, no question about it. But I don't think, having an all-state quarterback is necessarily the difference between reaching the state finals or not. I think the effort that you get out of a Providence football player at any position is going to be up here, way up here, in comparison to maybe some of the other teams are playing, because that expectation is set so high. So I think that the quarterback situation is going to resolve itself. I think there are going to be mistakes, especially early in the season, but I think they're going to pick up quickly. These kids aren't rookies. They know football, and I'm sure if you're watching this tape right now, you know football. But maybe one of the biggest strengths of this football squad is going to be Brendan Price. I mean, the tailback he's a killer. This kid's got some great downfield vision. He's able to break that first wave of tackles. He can break a tackle. He's hit the weight room pretty hard, so he's picked up a few pounds. He's got some muscle on him. I look for big things for him. He's got a great offensive line in front of him, and that's one thing that Providence has always been able to do. They put out an offensive line that can get yardage and chew yardage up. But you got to be able to spread the ball around. You got to be able to put the ball in the air, especially in their conference. I mean, in that conference and in their schedule, 3 yards in a cloud of dust just isn't going to get it done. You're going to have to get those long third down, 3rd and 7s, a penalty situation where you're sitting at 3rd and 8 or farther out. You got to be able to put the ball in the air, and I think that is where the quarterback situation may be a little bit iffy. However, on 4th down, punt the ball. Let me say it again. On 4th down, punt the ball, and here's why. Providence's defense, in my opinion, humbly, they're the best defense anywhere. They are one of the best defenses out there. They rival, in my opinion, what Bolingbrook did last year in 8A. I mean, Bolingbrook had, phenomenal defense. I think Providence they're returning a lot of players. They got a lot of stout. They got a lot of speed. They're aggressive. I think you try to throw against them, they're going to get a lot of picks. Their linebackers, solid, good run stoppers. I just think that offensively, if they're able to get a few scores, if Providence could put up 3 touchdowns a game, I think that they're gonna have a phenomenal season this year. I think if they put up 3 touchdowns a game, you could possibly see them as a 7A state player. I won't say champion, because I don't want to call anybody a champion, especially preseason. But I'm going to tell you that I really do like the chances of the Providence Celtics this year. I think they've got some valuable weapons. And their coaching staff, among the best. Absolutely among the best. I'm a little worried about their schedule. I mean, let's talk about their schedule. I got it pulled up here on my screen. It's a cheat sheet. And, of course, we all got a cheat sheet somewhere, so I'm going to take my eyes off the camera a little bit. But let's talk about their schedule. Joliet Catholic, as we said, in week 1. And I'm not going to tell you. I'll wait and tell you who I think is going to win that football game, but that's going to be a good game. That's going to be the game of the year, week 1. And, and just like, this area, this is a great football area to watch. If you're a high school football fan, that's going to be a great football game. And I like Providence's chances in that game, especially seeing that, JCA, I think, defensively is going to have some issues still. I'm sure they worked on that, and we'll talk about that. But I like Providence's chances. Manuka comes. They got Manuka at home again. So these are back-to-back, and I think they're showing off their new turf football field. That's the other great thing about Providence football this year. Can't leave out the new turf football field because, again, weather is taken out of the mix. I mean, this is going to be a faster field. I think it's going to benefit Providence. It's going to be a good thing. You got St. Lawrence, they'll play St. Lawrence for on September 7th, September 15th, Loyola. And Loyola, although they lost the 8A state championship to Bolingbrook last year, they're not a pushover. This is going to be really a tough team to beat for Providence. And although I like their chances in every game that they're in this season, Providence really struggled against Loyola last year, 32-6, a loss. And so I'd like to see, and that was at home. So I'd like to see, that might be a good gauge to find out how really good this team could be. Then they got Chicago St. Rita at home. They got Brother Rice away. Lake Forest at home. St. Ignatius College Prep away. And then Mount Carmel at home. And, incidentally, last year, to get that 6th win to cement their playoff spot, they beat Mount Carmel 24-18. And I think that shocked some people. So they brought a lot of momentum into the playoffs last year. I think that momentum is going to carry over into this year. What do I think their record is going to be at the end of the year? I think you're looking at a team that's going to finish the season. Now remember, they're in a very tough conference, so I'm going to go 7-2 this year for Providence. But that 7-2 mark is like a weighted grade. It's a weighted grade because 7-2 in some of the other conferences, I think this is a very good football team, and I think they got a shot at the state title. It's been a production of SouthwestSportsNest.com, home of the playmakers and game changers. Remember, do your best. Get on the nest.